Hello everyone, welcome back to our Accounting 210. In this video, we continue with the chapter 10 performance evaluation. So last time we said, hey, what will be covered in this lecture? Now we get started with the learning objective 1. As I mentioned, learning objective 1, I want you to read textbook, most likely for each chapter, the first learning objective is more background description. So I always believe my students' English understanding ability is better than me. Do me a favor, read your textbook. I put my notes here, but you can see it's really nothing much, just one page. Read your textbook. I even put the textbook page numbers there. So do it by yourself because you may have multiple choice. You may have multiple choice from these learning objectives. So let's look at those parts together. I still choose this. You like rainbow? You like what? Let me try new things. Rainbow. How about this? I don't know. Lava. You like lava? Choose this one. Learning objective 1, understand the decentralization and describe different types of responsible center. First thing is, what's the meaning of decentralization, right? This is from your textbook, page 584. As I always say, when you do decentralization, it's opposite of centralization. So, as a foreigner, I would say, hey, this is just the opposite of centralization. Centralization is, how to say that, is centralized, right? All the power is centralized to the CEO, to the top level people. But decentralization, basic idea is you give the authority, give the power to each level, to employee, to each level of the managers. I hope that's that's the right interpretation, but make sure you read your textbook 584. So why we do that, though there are good things and kind of disadvantage of decentralization, go back to your textbook and then you can put it here. I'm not going to do it here, but I think just let me, just ask me, hey, what's the good thing? I would say, kind of motivate your employee. I can think about that. Is that each employee, they can bring their expertise, in the discussion. Think about this. In our class, right? If I just talk, I don't listen to my students. That's kind of called the centralization, right? So if I say, hey, students, accounting 210 students, you are so smart. You discuss, you tell me your feeling, and I just summarize. I believe that's kind of a decentralization. So everybody will be motivated. Then you can show me your expertise there. So read textbook. I just give you the general idea. Read the textbook. But what is disadvantage? Everything has good parts and bad parts. Think about if I don't control the class, I let all my students discuss. The bad thing first I can think maybe is I don't know. I think it's hard to reach the agreement. I don't know that's what textbook says. Yes or no. Rely on a textbook, right? And then also you may have a different level of the authority. If everybody think, hey, I'm the boss, so read textbook and then get general idea. So when you have the multiple choice, you can get the right answer. I put this to you. I decentralize our class to you, so make sure you read those parts. Next learning objective is what is responsible accounting. Responsible center, right? So very likely, I'm just saying 100%, but very likely you may have multiple choice. So make sure you read textbook for these 2 pages, general idea. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 different type of responsible center. You need to know the definition. You need to know the definition and also some examples. So what are the center is responsible for? That's called a responsibility center. What the center is responsible for. Cost center is only responsible for cost. You say, I don't really understand what's the meaning. Think about our professors, right? Think about our accountant. we do not go outside to sell products, right? So in the whole company environment, the accountant, the R&D, they don't go outside to sell products. They don't earn revenue. So how do we evaluate that center? It can only be evaluated based on the cost, whether we have a lower cost or we have higher cost. So let's say, hey, I'm the accountant. I do not generate revenue, but I can, decrease my waste, kind of more efficient, work more efficiently. So I will have a lower cost. Instead of using 10 printing pages, I just use 5 pages. So I decrease the cost by 50%. Then you can only evaluate me based on the cost. That is why we call it a cost center. You can only be responsible based on the cost because we do not generate revenue. Okay, so if I ask you some question like, hey, the accountant department is what center? It's a cost center. The next one is a revenue center. You will say, hey, what's the meaning of revenue center? Especially when you pioneer sales, those you want to kind of focus, launch a new product. So you will say, hey, I want to just focus on the revenue. I don't care how much it costs. So for that situation scenario, then the center should be evaluated based on the revenue. So I don't really, regardless of the cost, what is the revenue you can generate. But most likely, it's more like a profit center, right? You have the revenue, and then you also have the cost. So for that center, they want to increase the revenue, they want to decrease the cost because they will be evaluated based on the profit. And the last center is like higher level. Higher level is like the in one region, kind of like that. We call it the investment center, but we will also be evaluated with the revenue, evaluated with the cost, evaluated by the profit, and then evaluated by the investment. So if they say, hey, I'm going to invest in a new product, invest in new equipment, whether the investment is correct, yes or no, then they will also be evaluated for these 4 parts. So investment center is not just based on investment. Actually, it's beyond this revenue, cost, profit. They have this extra called investment. Okay, general idea one more time. The first part, I decentralize this to you. Make sure you read textbook. It's really not much. You can see from textbook 584, basically going to 586, 87. So you just have 4 pages to read. Make sure decentralization, disadvantage, advantage, and then responsible accounting centers. Make sure their definition, and then if I give you some example, if I do test you, I definitely use the example from your textbook or from all the practice. Understand the logic. Cost center will only be evaluated based on cost. The revenue only be related with the revenue. Profit center is revenue minus cost. Investment is revenue, cost, profit, and investment. Okay, then we talk about the brief background. In the next part, I believe in the next part, we start having some idea about the performance, the variance. Okay, I see you in the next part, learning objective 2. Bye.